Hello, welcome to the THC Show again, hopefully. For those of you that have seen us before, and for those that haven't, well, welcome. This is a show where we talk about truth, hope, and change, and THC, although they are all the same. Truth, hope, and change are necessary things in this crazy world that we live in, and we might find out a little bit about that on the show today. On the show today, we will have 8 out of 10 Glenn from Canamatch.ca join us for the 420 session, as always. And we're going to do an update on the CSP and what's going on with our quest for low barrier access community cannabis stores. What I wanted to talk about today is a similar theme. It's about government and what the role of government is supposed to be. I was born here being told I lived in a free country, that we had governments that were public servants, and that we were free to do as we choose as long as we're not hurting other people. We want governments to be fiscally responsible. I would like to see governments be good at some forms of earning money, putting in programs and putting in mechanisms of things that actually generate money. That's a good thing. But what I don't want is for my government to be using business ethics in the way that they govern myself and my fellow citizens. Ethics. You know, what is right and wrong? It's all about right and wrong. And there's different structures where ethics are involved. We think a lot about human ethics. You know, what it's like to be a human being. What does it mean to interact with other human beings? What's right and what's wrong when you do that? What's ethical and what's not? But in business, there's a different set of ethics because the motives are different. The goals are different. What you're dealing with is different. You're dealing with commerce. You're dealing with trading. You're dealing with money situations. And everybody's trying to be better off having done the business deal. You're looking for your own interests. That's what business is all about. Business ethics, when you're looking after your bottom line, or in the case of big business that are public, you're looking after the shareholders. The shareholders have expectations of what your business is going to do and how much money it's going to bring them, and whether your business is going to be able to be thriving or starving. Business ethics. How do you run your business? Business ethics are about maximizing profits, minimizing costs, putting out the competition, all of those sorts of things. But they differ greatly from human ethics. Human ethics are where we care about each other. We care about people's feelings. We care about their families. We care about their futures. And that's what governments should be involved with, is human ethics, not business ethics. But that's not what's going on here. We're directly exposing exactly how much that is going on here with the Cannabis Substitution Program and our quest for low barrier access community cannabis stores. It should be a no-brainer. Public servants, public interests. The public is interested in having reasonable, easy access to all of the things that make their life easier, and the government's role is to help them with that. That's what we have them for. We have governments to help us. If we didn't need help with certain things, we wouldn't need governments. But there are things that we need help with, and that's what governments are supposed to do. In our case, with the Cannabis Substitution Program, we've been responding to a public health care crisis, a public health emergency that started back in 2015. A poison drug supply. It sounds crazy. Why would you even have a drug supply, let alone a poisoned one, that isn't part of the regular system? Well, because we have prohibition. Because governments in this country have decided to follow the lead of the United States and corporate interests. They've gone on a campaign of prohibiting certain substances. And that has resulted in a drug trade. That has resulted in a drug supply that is not part of a regulated scheme. That has resulted in exactly what it had to result in, which was an underground marketplace with drugs available that can be dangerous, that are unregulated, and all the problems that entails. This problem that we're having here in North America is directly related to drug policy. That's why we have illegal drugs deemed as policy by the governments of these drugs are legal, these drugs are illegal. When you have illegal drugs, you will have a demand for those drugs. That's just the way it is. Some people have no choice. They're just rebellious by nature. It's just part of how we are. People don't like being bullied. We don't like being told what we can and cannot do. Even if we're told it's dangerous, it needs to be our decision. When it's not allowed to be our own decision, that drives us crazy. As human beings, we decide that's what we need to do. Freedom lies in doing what you're told you're not allowed to do. Because it's not right for people to tell you you're not allowed to do something if you're a full-grown adult. Of course you're not allowed to hurt other people. That's human ethics. We don't need to be taught about that. We don't really need to have even laws about that because people know that. And we always have had ways throughout history of dealing with people that hurt other people. Can't hurt other people. That's no way to live. Why would you want to do that anyway? That's too bad when you do. I understand. Some people don't get a good break in life. They grow up angry. They grow up wanting to hurt other people. It happens. It's understandable. It's nature. But that's where the line is that we get to do whatever we want unless we're hurting other people. And over the course of hundreds of years, we've instituted governance. People to make sure other people don't hurt other people. And then it got more than that, and it got more than that. And then there's the church, which was the governance for so long. The church that made sure that the poor were looked after. That was their job. The church became governments. It's up to governments to look after the poor. Those that are less advantaged to others need protection in society if you're going to have a civil society. A society, in my opinion, is judged by how well you look after those people that have trouble looking after themselves. I want some of my efforts and my tax money to go towards those that aren't as fortunate as me. That's what makes a healthy society. But our society is not healthy. This world is not the way that it should be in any way, shape, or form yet. We have the ability for large, powerful groups to bully other people. And in many cases, they're called governments. And that's certainly what's going on in Canada. I call it corruption. And the corruption runs right to the top here in Canada. Mr. Trudeau is a big part of the problems that we're having here and have all of his predecessors been for a long time. We're trying to help people lose their addiction. We're trying to help people get out of that illegal drug supply that is poisoned and killing people. This is a public health emergency. I have personal knowledge because of my experience that cannabis high-dose edibles are an effective tool in helping people get off of opioids and other hard drugs that are a scourge in their lives. I know it works in many, many, many cases. I know sometimes it doesn't work. I know sometimes people don't have a good experience with high-dose edibles and don't bother trying it again. They don't do it the right way, or maybe it just isn't for them. Maybe it doesn't work for everybody, even if they do it right. But it sure works for a lot of people. It is a very, very effective tool for helping people get through that almost impossible stage of quitting drugs, the withdrawal from those drugs, if they're hard drugs. They are deeply embedded into your system physically, and stopping the insertion of those things can result in severe, severe pain and suffering. Withdrawal is very difficult to overcome. That's why cannabis high-dose edibles are so valuable in that pursuit. And we've proven it. And the science is there. Dr. M.J. Malloy, for example, only one of many researchers to conclude through research and collection of data that cannabis can be very effective in replacing the use of other substances and in getting through withdrawal. So you would think that in a free country with public servants, and this being a public health emergency, that having a proven method of addressing that situation would be embraced by our public servants. But it's not. And it's the strangest thing, isn't it? A natural plant that's been used for thousands of years through hundreds of cultures as medicine, has the ability to rescue people from addiction and rescue them from a poison drug supply. It's a public health emergency, and our governments aren't allowing it. What the hell is going on? Big money is what's going on. It's always about money and control, but big money is certainly involved here. Trudeau decided that he could maybe get an advantage in that election where his party had been decimated, didn't even have opposition status. He had a great idea. Let's ride this wave of public opinion about marijuana and let's legalize it. Because we, as cannabis activists and rights activists, had really paved that way for him. We had done a pretty good job of explaining to Canadians that they had been lied to about cannabis, that there was no justification for wasting tax dollars on criminally prosecuting people, especially young people, for having a substance that didn't hurt anybody and having done behavior which harmed nobody. We had done a pretty good job of explaining that to Canadians. The media had shifted quite dramatically, and Trudeau knew that, and he rode that wave to a majority government. The biggest comeback in Canadian history of a political party. All on the platform of legalizing cannabis. Now, of course, he didn't really let on about the way he was going to legalize cannabis. Although if you read the website carefully like Freddie Pritchard did, you would have had a pretty clear picture of what we have going on here today. A bona fide cartel monopolizing the sale and distribution and production of cannabis in Canada at the exclusion of all others, using taxpayer money to run a very expensive protection racket to maintain the artificially high prices that they want to charge people for this much in demand product. That was his scheme. But he didn't frame it like that at all during the election. In fact, he talked about how medical patients were going to have no problem when legalization came getting access to their medicine. He lied. He lied. As soon as they were elected and brought in so-called legalization, put out a big campaign to have all the medical dispensaries shut down in favor of the new Canadian non-medical cannabis dispensary. Non-medical. Like as if you could use cannabis non-medically. It's a supplement to your endocannabinoid system. As soon as you're ingesting cannabinoids, it's medical. Recreation is recreation. It's a subset of medicine. It's preventative medicine. It's medicine. But very cleverly, on purpose, they want to make sure that they're not calling it medicine. Because if it really was medicine, and it really is medicine, then him and his father and all the other prime ministers and all the other justice ministers throughout Canadian history, up back into as far back as 1923, are guilty of misappropriation of justice, of abuse of power, criminally misusing public funds, lying and in contempt of the populace. These people have known since the beginning that there was no justification in a free country for public servants to be prohibiting with tax dollars the use, growth, trading, or whatever of a natural herbal medicine. So, the corruption has been going on for a very long time, and it is certainly very, very apparent now. We've been waiting 20 months, over 20 months, for the federal government to simply give us a piece of paper with a signature on it from somebody that would allow us to operate our life-saving services from a storefront with a little bit of dignity, like any other business and any other provider of any other service basically gets to do. People that are struggling with addiction, need a safe space to go where they can have low barrier access and discreet access to cannabis. Medical users that just want a store to walk into with somebody in there who probably cares about them a little bit as a customer, who has knowledge about all the different forms of cannabis that could be helpful in so many different situations. You just want a store to go into where they can feel like a dignified human being, looking for something that's valid to be looking for. In fact, far more than valid. Choosing cannabis as medicine over pharmaceuticals is the right choice. Choosing cannabis as a euphoric over alcohol is the right choice. Choosing cannabis as an inhalable over commercial tobacco is a smart choice. This is what smart people do. Not stoners, not a bunch of dummies that are using drugs and all the rest. This is what good, smart people would be looking for in the way of medicine, in the way of euphorics, in the way of all these other different purposes that we would be using cannabis for. It's a smart choice. But we live in a world full of lies. We live in a world full of thieves, through greedy people who want to prevent access to competition because they're using business ethics. And our government using business ethics and supporting the few insiders that have their ear through successful, expensive lobbying are criminals that are causing a lot of harm. And in fact, in our case, in denying us a license, in handcuffing us and restricting our abilities to be able to provide the service that we're providing here, means that there's hundreds and thousands of people that we are not reaching. We do have a cannabis substitution program on the East Coast in Halifax. We have one in Manitoba. We have one in London, Ontario. But there needs to be hundreds across Canada because hundreds of communities are suffering with this scourge of bad government drug policy resulting in a poison drug supply. It's 4:19. Roll them if you haven't yet. I can roll a joint in a minute. Can you? I don't need to because I already got them rolled. But yeah. We need to insert human ethics into the way we are governed. We need to reset this dumb-ocracy that we've been handed here by the very corporate people that we need to be protected from. They're the ones controlling the choices of our government, and we need to stop that. We need to recognize that, expose that, and come up with some sort of foundation to do with a proper democracy where people are free to do whatever they want to do or don't want to do unless they're harming other people. And governments are there to protect their right to do that. That's the future we need to get. I'm hoping we can get there. In the meantime, what we are able to do for you is expose just how corrupt things are by the government's unwillingness to support what is the best harm reduction option for people that are trying to escape addiction. We're showing you. Let's do something about it. It's 4:20. Dwayne Wells is here. How are you doing, sir?
Good, how are you?
I'm very well. How's Cannabis.ca?
Good, how are you? No, we're doing fine. We're still growing up with people. I see
you know what?
With 420.
I'm not even going to say who that is on the phone there, but I'm going to have to deal with that one pretty quick.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
No, we won't talk about that.
All right.
What we do want to talk about, though, is Cannabis Day for sure.
Yes, Cannabis Day is coming up. A week Friday,
You're the
right?
main sponsor. Cannabis.ca is looking after the stuff that we need for the event at Thornton Park. It should be fantastic. A simple little event, really, except for if we get a whole bunch of vendors, then it won't be such a simple little event.
Yeah.
We don't know how many vendors are coming because there's no fee for vendors. There's no registration of vendors. There's no spots being saved for people. There's a ton of really good spots there. The whole park is little minor little villages that are created by the pathways that are fantastic. So lots of space for people to set up and have a great Cannabis Day. And we'll see how that all goes. We're, of course, going to have speakers.
Yep.
We're going to have lots of music. We're going to have a protest about these stupid laws that I'm talking about that prevent poor people and sick people and daily users and just anybody from accessing cannabis the way it should be accessed.
And now refusing or having what is that thing? Yeah, they're intending to deny or whatever.
Their intent to deny.
Yeah, so that's what happened with mine. For my 100 gram a day, they are intending to deny. That's
They sent you an intent to deny?
Yes. Yes, they did. Yes. And our lawyers, mutual lawyer, is going to help me out with that.
So because you're having problems with having so much cannabis, is that why they're intending to deny?
They say that's too much. Yeah,
it's too much.
Yeah, for somebody who's been smoking for 41 years, that's way too much.
So they get to decide for you whether or not it's enough or too much.
Yeah, yeah. Right.
And what does your doctor have to say about that? Is he telling them that that's too much?
No. He wrote the 100 gram prescription, no problem.
Right, so in his opinion, the 100 gram is what it should be.
Yeah.
Now the government is coming in and saying that's too much.
They're saying 45 grams is the maximum per day. 45 grams. Yeah.
Wow.
If you could make concentrates and edibles and everything yourself at home, yes, that might be a right. But I have to pay people to make edibles. I have to pay people to
make... Well, in many cases, what you're paying them is half the product that they're using to make them with. Right?
That's why we
so
have
if you're talking about how much you're allowed to have, you've got to have twice as much as what you're actually using, because the other half is for getting it made for you.
Lots to make the concentrates, too, because you're just taking the crystal off. They're not smoking the bud. So, but they don't realize that. They just think it's all about smoking. I can juice with it. I can make pills with it. There's lots of stuff.
So
I've lost over 30 pounds with it.
Is there some documentation that you've been hurting other people with this excess cannabis that you have?
No.
Is it all about you? They're worried about you?
No, they're
worried about you.
Apparently the second person that I've known of has been...
Because there's no evidence that you've been diverting any of that, and people have been harmed by it or anything like that.
I got the letter on my phone. Yep.
This government is out of control. And boy, is it ever being exposed with this whole issue of cannabis. They can kind of get away with it behind the scenes because you don't really notice it in a lot of different ways how corrupt they are. But when it comes to cannabis...
They're corrupt.
Here you go. I mean, now you get to find out what a person's true colors are. And they say they're red liberal, but they're red with blood on their hands. And, every other government before them has been the same. I mean, the blue conservatives were blue because they were choking people out.
Yeah. And you say cartel. Isn't Trudeau supposed to be rumored to be Cuba's son or something? Fidel Castro's son or something like that? Right?
There's rumors and there's pictures. I don't know why there isn't clear DNA evidence. I mean,
the cartel.
I heard that he doesn't like that. He didn't like that. So why doesn't he come out and show us the DNA proof? And this guy's our prime minister. He could probably take your DNA in a heartbeat. He could probably send his goons in to break your door down and take a swab or something, and that's probably his right to do that. He probably snuck that in with the Cannabis Act. There was 47 other laws that were brought in with the Cannabis Act, like horrible shit.
Oh, really?
Some really bad stuff in there. Like he can deem protesters to be terrorists.
Oh, wow.
He can seize people's bank accounts. That was all part of that Cannabis Act legislation that came through. They don't need a search warrant anymore if there's a suspicion of cannabis, and the reason for that they gave is because they need to be able to come in and quickly determine whether you have more than 4 plants growing.
Wow. Okay, wow. As if they have the staff to do that.
They can charge you with impaired driving when you're sitting at home if they decide that you must have been driving before that. There's a whole bunch of things that were... Go ahead and read those.
I could have been charged with impaired driving for the last 40 years because every time I drive, I've fucking got cannabis in my system. It's throughout my fat cells. It's been there for 40 years.
We really need a reset.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how long it's been going on because, I was only born 65 years ago and it's been going on long before that. But some subsequent governments after governments after governments have come in and added more laws.
Yeah.
They just keep adding more laws. They just keep taking away more rights. They just keep gaining more power. This has been going on for way too long. I mean, why didn't our democracy come with a reset?
Yeah.
There needs to be a reset. We need to scrutinize these things. But they have festered and they have grown. And these people have become really arrogant about the way that they operate as public servants. They think they're authorities. They think they're bosses of ours. They think they're better than us.
Yeah.
And you can tell that by lots of their behavior that goes on. And we've exposed all kinds of that throughout the last couple of decades here with cell phones and with emails and other ways that we found a bunch of corruption goes on with these people. Oh my God, who would have guessed that power could corrupt, eh? But yeah, power corrupts, and it has corrupted, and it's time that we reset it. it's time that we think about it, that we sit down with smart people using proper human ethics.
Yeah.
What are we doing? What are we doing with this drug policy? What are we doing with the policy towards Indigenous people? What are we doing with policies towards children?
Yeah.
That we need to rethink all of these things and think it really long and hard, because they've just been adding on more and more corruption all the way, burying different levels of corruption, finding different ways to operate in a corrupt world.
Yeah.
We need to reset that stuff. We can be smart people. We could say, let's pretend we don't have any governance. How do you think people should be governed? How do people want to be governed? What's right and what's wrong? What are ethics? And try to see how we would fit it. 'Cause they do that with towns.
Yeah.
Right? And I've seen that, where towns are usually, there's a river, there's somebody who sets up on the river, and then he has family, and and everything's set around that river, and then the road to the family's house, and then pretty soon there's a store, and then you can see the development of cities from the very early days. I saw one of New York. It was basically a farmer's field. This was the first ever picture of New York.
On an island. And New York is an island, right?
Exactly, and it wasn't hardly anything at all, right?
Wow.
But as it developed because, it's just the way things were. I mean, somebody set up a business over here, so they put in a road to that, and then that road became the main road because it was Healing Road, and then and then but I've seen it where they go, how would we construct a city? I think there's a couple in the Middle East. I think there's some in Las Vegas or in Nevada, where they just say, what's the ideal way to start a town? Like, how would you want your roads to work? How would you want, instead of having all this crazy infrastructure that's just there because they're building on other infrastructure and other things, if they sat down and said, well, no, let's do this properly.
How would you want to
so
do
let's do the same thing with democracy.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's
beyond my pay grade,
but
I guess.
See, there is so much chaos out there that might be a hard thing to do. Everybody's going to have a different opinion. There are going to be groups that are going to agree with each other.
I never said it'd be easy.
No, I didn't say no. You didn't say it'd be
I said we could do it.
That'd be really,
but
really
I
hard.
didn't say it was easy. I mean, maybe I'd do it, but it's above my pay grade. There's really smart people that should be involved in all of this with respect to all sorts of ins and outs of it.
Just going out in the forest and clearing some spots and start just growing a community where we can have cannabis as our medicines and maybe have some doctors there and stuff like that. Yeah,
let's you and I sit down and decide how we would like to have a society.
Yeah, because
and then invite some friends.
We got all the food here. We can barter with it if we need meats.
We could appoint some people to be policemen to make sure that everybody's got weed on them at all times.
Yeah,
that would be one of the first rules.
It'd be illegal not to have any. At least a joint or
you
a roach.
You have to always have a weed on. You have to have two.
Two roaches?
Well, because you might meet somebody else who happened to smoke their last little bit. You got to help them out too. Because our society would be all about helping each other.
Yes.
It would be all about cooperation and living together in harmony. And that's why you'd always have two joints, because you might need one for somebody else. It'd be a beautiful village of love.
Yeah.
And that's what we could have maybe in small little amounts. You're absolutely right. To change this whole system,
we'd have to do something like that. And just so to let people know that it's growing.
Well, for example, if they were to end drug prohibition tomorrow, there'd be a whole bunch of banks collapse.
Yeah.
There'd be financial ruin in a lot of different ways, because so much of this economy of our world is revolved around drug trade and drug prohibition.
And the money.
So you have to do these things incrementally.
Yeah.
But that's what I want to do. But I want to do it from one point and say, okay, let's reset. So let's, as we go now, let's scrutinize these things. Let's think about what it is that we're doing, and should we be doing this. Now, I understand there's a whole lot of big, powerful interests that are pretty happy with the status quo.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be easy to overturn them. Of course it wouldn't. In fact, maybe we can't. In fact, maybe we're doomed.
Yeah.
We may well be doomed to the corporate agenda.
The only thing that can shut down the corporates would be with banks shut down, because then their monies that they have in there would be not there anymore. They wouldn't have the power. You'd have to shut down the banking system. Maybe go with Bitcoin, a cryptocurrency, something like that.
It's taken a big dip the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's down below the 20,000. As of today, it's the lowest it's ever been for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what the answer is. I imagine those people are well insulated and well protected, and they don't have all their eggs in one basket.
If there's no money,
and we're going to be up against them forever. That there's always going to be very rich people who have powerful friends and have an agenda of control and exploitation, and they're always going to be there. I just don't see eliminating that. It's a natural human thing of greed that happens.
Isn't Star Trek based on Without Money? because they've got everything. They just ask for it, and the thing makes it the replicator. Yeah, makes it for them, right?
I mean, they don't show us a lot of earth.
If you've got a good job, right? If you're a captain and you're living in a nice place, nobody's poor, nobody's not got no food. They got all the items that you would need, right? If we could get rid of money, I think that would get rid of a lot of the problem. There used to be power.
Money is just a symbol.
Yes.
Money is just a symbol for things and services.
But we all know the money needs buys food.
It's those
gives us life.
Sure.
Right? So without it, and we just worked for what we did, and our job gave us all those things that we did, then we could have a normal family life, come home.
Well, in yours and my village.
Yeah, nobody would have to worry about that, right?
On a global scale, there's a lot of reasons for poverty. Different economic and natural factors enter into
reasons.
Lots of reasons
Me too.
So, yeah, we're always going to have huge, powerful groups, corporate if you want, but people with money and leverage and power and influential friends that have an agenda of control and exploitation, and that's my big issue. Lots of rich and powerful people are not malicious. They're not malevolent. They don't. They're not preying on people. They're in fact giving back and using their resources in ways that benefit humanity in every way that they can think of. And that's wonderful, and that's not who I'm talking about.
No.
I'm talking about the powers that be that really are running roughshod over the rest of us on this planet, because they don't give a shit about anything except their own personal wealth and control of things. They're willing to sacrifice the environment for generations to come to exploit it and us. And we need to have protections against that, which happens.
Yeah.
They're going to be there. They're going to try to do that. We need to have protection against. So you and I in our village, we're going to have some safeguards against that happening.
Yeah.
We're going to put down some foundations about not letting people have the ability to do that or whatever. We would do that. We would find a way, because we're going to start our village from scratch, and we're going to decide what's the best way to run a society and what have been the problems in the different methods of building a society. But the world has gotten to a point where it's necessary. We've got so many crises happening around the world right now,
all over the place,
and not the least of which is the obvious corruption of government. Since WikiLeaks and Eric Snowden and all the rest that we found out about, the corruption of our governments, that is a huge, huge issue.
Yeah.
Because the governance of people hits us right at home, where we live. And here we are, we got a protected, insulated group in Ottawa making decisions on behalf of a powerful, elite corporate agenda about actual human beings here on the ground that are suffering and dying because of what they are doing.
Yeah.
And there's an answer to that, in that we could perhaps stop them from doing what they're doing, but we could just insert, options that would counter that.
Yeah.
And we're being blocked from doing that by governments who are acting on their behalf.
Because they want the corruption.
That is so dangerous for society. It is life and death, and it's on a large scale. So, at least I'm still sitting here talking about it.
Yeah, that would shut us down, right? And they're like we're saying, there's so many companies control the media and what we see and what we hear.
Sal and the cat.
And a mouse.
We should. Oh, Sal the cat and a mouse.
Yes. Better call Sal.
Yeah. This is the new comic book that we'll be releasing next year. Life and Times at the Healing Wave Cannabis Substitution Program.
I love it. You just never know what's going to happen when you get stoned.
Yes, that's true. That's true. We got to try and keep it light, because we're on to heavy stuff here.
Oh, yeah. That stuff they're smoking today is pretty damn good.
Oh, man, I just need a puff after all that.
Yeah, I got some unicorn poop today. Look at that, eh?
That's what I'm smoking this blackberry stuff. Are you? But I got the unicorn poop.
Yeah, there's the unicorn poop right there.
So if people out there have not actually ever encountered a unicorn, let alone their poop, this is what it looks like.
Yeah.
So if you see any of that stuff,
I had to follow my unicorn around for a week. He wasn't very happy about it.
We're not high at all. We don't get high at all here.
He thought it was stalking him.
And how long was that after you ate those mushrooms?
Well, but there's unicorn poop weed, there's unicorn poop shatter, there's unicorn poop butter.
Amazing stuff.
Yeah.
And you can see that and many, many other things in several different locations coming up. Yeah. There's the Cannabis Day.
Cannabis Day.
Cannabis Day.
Cannabis Day. See, can't say cannabis after smoking cannabis.
Cannabis Day right there. We're going to be at Thornton Park this year for a wonderful gathering of like-minded, love-based people. And we're going to entertain and educate and protest and just have as much fun as a person could possibly have, surrounded by, the love of the cannabis community and unicorn poop and all kinds of different wonderful
I'm not sure the unicorn poop will last that long, but we'll see.
As long as it doesn't rain, we're all right.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't look like that. There's supposed to be nice and weather.
There's goose poop, but don't be confusing that with unicorn poop.
Yeah, you don't want to smoke the goose.
You don't want to smoke the goose poop.
No.
Just gotta imagine it's not there, and then it does go away by about noon.
And it really looks shitty too, that goose poop, so you can really tell the difference.
You're a very funny guy when you want to be.
I have to be, yeah.
Funny guy when you want to be.
Yeah, I have to be.
And so there's also the Prairie Medicinal Harvest Cup.
September 2nd, 3rd, 4th. Yeah. In Saskatoon.
In Saskatoon.
Not Regina, but in Saskatoon.
10th annual.
Yeah.
Although there was a couple of years where it didn't happen because of the pandemic, so I don't know if it gets called the annual. I guess it can't be called the annual anymore.
It'll be the 10th.
It's just the 10th.
It's the 10th.
The 10th Prairie Harvest Medicinal Cup.
Yeah.
Prairie Medicinal Harvest Cup. Did I get that right?
PMHC.
PMHC.
Yeah.
Always a wonderful, friendly event called the Friendly Cup for good reason.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'll be able to be there. I'm hoping to. I'm going to plan on it and see what happens. I'm in such a little chess game here with our pursuit of a community-based, low-barrier access cannabis store that I'm not sure whether I can even be away for 3 days or five or 6 or 7 days. It's a 7-day trip.
No.
Sure it is.
So there's too much driving?
I don't want to drive all night. I don't want to drive so fast. I don't like doing that for a number of reasons. I want to see. I want to.
Yeah, so Wednesday to Wednesday.
So it's 2 days to get there. It's 2 days to get back.
Yeah,
it's just what it is,
Yeah.
And unless I fly.
Unless we fly. Yeah, we could be back by Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
And even be there for the day after party, because he always has a day after thing.
I know, we don't want to miss that.
That would be the Monday.
It's a friendliest part of the Friendly Cup.
Be back Monday night for dinner and do the show Tuesday.
We could
probably do that.
We'll talk about that.
All right, let's,
it might work. I'd like to go. I mean, I love to go.
I bet it'd be cheaper than flying, than driving.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, but Alberta gas price is 97 cents a liter right now.
No, that's an old report. Did you see that on my page?
Was that an old report?
That was from 2019. I got taken to task for that.
I saw the picture of it. I didn't
those comments were there, and I liked those comments that corrected that. I love it when people correct things that aren't right. If I don't catch it, sometimes I post things quickly, and I don't. If I comment, then you can take me to some task on it. Because I don't comment unless. But if I just post it, then I'm looking for other people's comments in some cases, and maybe that's not fair to do. My son says, "You shouldn't do that, Dad."
Yeah.
But I want to know what other people think, and I want to get that dialogue out there. Sometimes it's not good just to ignore things. It's best to put it out there. Let's get a bunch of comments. Let's see what
what is the real price in Alberta right now?
It's still down a bit because they have less tax. They don't charge the same taxes on me. I don't want to say what it is because I don't like being inaccurate. This is the truth.
Well, I was just seeing some comments yesterday, so that's the only where I'm getting the numbers from.
Yeah. I try to only tell the truth. If I don't know, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Anybody else watching? What's your gas prices right now? We can get the live pricing right there. People can comment in about 10 or 15 seconds.
Because you're good at looking at your scrking there.
Occasionally, yeah.
I can't multitask like that.
Well, really? We've got Michelle's watching today. Douglas is watching. Dee.
I look forward to seeing you guys. I hope you're going to be able to drop by the Thornton Park event if you're in town here at that time.
I think they might be.
I would love to see you.
Yeah, so I thought I ordered 2 tents, one for Douglas and one for me.
Oh,
apparently the picture was wrong, and all they said was a canopy. At the top of it. No legs, nothing. But in the picture at Costco, it showed the whole thing.
Okay.
Right, so
you still got to read another tent, is what you're saying?
I don't know if I can find a tent now. I went to Costco.
I just bought one.
All they had was 13 by 13.
Really?
Yeah, Costco. Yeah.
At Costco.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think I just got one
But
from
also
Canadian
I have
Tire.
something that's easy with my scoliosis. That's the whole
Walmart,
thing,
Canadian
right?
Tire. They'll carry it out for you.
No, the setting up and the taking down.
Oh,
part.
I see. Well, we get somebody to do that for you.
You can, yeah.
Oh, fuck
yeah,
yes.
okay.
We will have lots of volunteers.
I can go to Canadian
I've had
Tire.
a lot of people reach out to me about Cannabis Day. They want to come. They want to volunteer. They just want to be there to help. And yes, we want all those people. I don't have shirts for people this year. I'm not doing a lot of organizing. I'm going to make sure it goes off the way that it should. Mm-hmm. We're going to make sure there's music and speakers and all the rest of it. We're not having a big stage. We're having a couple of tents and tables underneath there. I've got a good sound system that I've rented. I've got a generator coming. The rest of it is community. And that's what's so beautiful about that event in particular. Cannabis Day's always been very good that way, is that people don't leave it a mess.
Yeah.
You know, and there's a lot of people there that are just there to help, and if there's ever a need, there's a bunch of people there to help.
Yeah.
We all help each other. You know, that's the way it is. So yeah, people are going to show up there. You're welcome to show up there. Please come.
Yeah.
If there's something to do, we'll do it. We'll make sure the park is cleaner than we found it, because that's what we always do. We'll make sure that there's. I'm going to have lots of water there. Other people are going to bring water. It might be a hot day, but there's lots of shade at Thornton Park, and that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
So we should be all right that way. We're just going to have a really good community cannabis event.
You have 2 tables, right?
I got extra tables.
You do? Can I use a table then?
I think you can use a table.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I think
All right, all right. Well, I'll just go and see what Canadian Tire has for tents in Mission. So.
In Mission, Mission's far enough away that
it maybe
and maybe you can stop at 3 or 4 along the way and find out. And actually,
I'm not one of those people.
No, actually, Canadian Tire is really good.
Yeah,
you can go in there
online and pick it up. Yeah.
You're good online.
Yeah.
They'll phone ahead. They'll look and see which stores have it.
And send you the right one.
Somewhere between Vancouver.
Well,
and
there's
Mission.
a store in Abbotsford that's pretty big too. So sure, but we got Cabela's in Abbotsford too. There'd probably be something in Cabela's maybe.
I might not have an extra table.
Oh, okay.
I got those 2 there, which I was going to put underneath the tables that or the tents that we're going to get.
Oh yes. Because you're doing the staging tables. Oh yeah.
And the landlord is a big part of this year as well.
Hopefully he's
for
going to
Cannabis
be
Day.
well enough.
Yeah, he's doing great.
We just
he's
saw him
had
today.
the triple bypass. He went from 37% heart capacity to 97.
Yeah.
He's still in the healing stages, but he's looking good. He's chipper. He's going to be fine.
He's going to be fine?
A week from Friday.
All right.
And he's going to be there early with a bunch of his friends, and they're going to just help make sure everybody's got what they need when they're there. He's going to make sure that we keep the hill for the stage or whatever we're going to call it.
Yeah.
And it should be very good. Bob Woolsey.
Yeah.
Bob Woolsey, that
nice?
old veteran soldier that he is there. He's been at this for a long time.
I saw him today at our local Timmy's this morning.
He got a nice gift back from the RCMP out there in Mission. 7 years ago, they took a whole bunch of his product.
I was there.
He was running a medical dispensary.
You were there. I was working for him.
And they seized a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I wasn't there when they came to his.
He's been vindicated, and they called him up and said, "We got all this stuff here, but it's too much stuff of yours that you can have back. But it's too much stuff for you to come and get it because you can't be in possession of that much driving back to wherever you're going to drive it back to. So, we're going to have an RCMP officer deliver it to you." Well, Bob didn't know what he thought about that. He said, that sounds pretty strange to me.
Now I'm in possession of it.
So him and Lisa went to have a look at what it was that they wanted to give him back, and it was literally everything that they had seized off of him, including a great big box. There many pounds of cannabis in there. It's all brown and orange, and it's degraded from THC into CBG, CBN. The way cannabis does. Still a valuable medicine if used properly, but not viable. For what it was meant for at all. Pretty much just destroyed his product there. It left him in a bit of financial ruin at the same time. Stealing his meds, which. He had a right to have. Denying him the ability to replace those meds because of the situation that he was left in. There's a whole bunch of areas where he's been severely harmed.
So he sounds like
he's going after him
for constitutional tort.
Well, he's got a number of different torts have happened, and he's going after him for all that. Good on him. We need to be doing this and standing up to. It's a section 50. Where did I put that? Bob Woolsey. Section 24. CDSA return application is what you would fill out if they've stolen some of your product. But that was 7 years ago, so that's back during the CDSA days. Now we're Cannabis Act. So I'm told that the Cannabis Act has been structured very cleverly into a form that does not allow for much leeway with getting stuff back, with getting, I mean, the way the CSU's set up here to do with the Cannabis Act, where there's no judge involved, you don't get due process, they can just come in and seize and then they fine you, is what it is, and it's a huge fine, triple what they think the actual value is based on their estimation. Yeah. And so anyway.
It's crazy.
It's crazy stuff. So really good to hear that Bob got all of his stuff back. Good on you.
Yeah.
And other people should be trying to pursue these people similar ways. This is theft of medicine. Yeah. When the police come in and seize your stuff there, even if you don't have a doctor on board and you haven't gone through that process, if you're using cannabis as a medicine, I think you've got a case to be made that you deserve to have that. All of these previous interdictions to do with the prohibition and the illegality of cannabis, that's all got to be revisited now, doesn't it? I mean,
I would think so.
If you're not a criminal now because you've got some cannabis and you're using it because it helps you in your life, then you were not a criminal before legalization when you had cannabis and it was helping you in your life. You've never been a criminal.
You got charged with possession.
So if you were charged and you had products seized and you've had problems because of that, if that harmed you financially, if that harmed you physically, emotionally, all of these things are torts that can be brought against the government, and we should be doing that. And they're prepared for it, by the way. They've set aside huge amounts of money to protect themselves from all of the financial harm that's going to come to them for the misdeeds that they've done. And cannabis prohibition is one super huge misdeed. They may not be selling medical cannabis and calling it that because they're afraid that if they admit that it's medical, then they are going to be culpable for having persecuted people for lying and all of that. Yeah. So, and yes, they are. Yes. They're not going to get away with it just because they're now going to sell you artificially inflated cannabis, high prices for cannabis, and call it non-medical. That's not going to let them get away with this. We're taking them to court.
They irradiated it enough that it is non-medical. Oh, wow.
That's another discussion about just how medical their cannabis still is.
Because they can't be proven to be liars, right? So
one of these days, I'm going to be taken to task for that. Yeah. We do want to tell the truth on the show here. And I think I'm going to have Don and Carol on to talk about what's available in the legal marketplace.
Yes, there are some good
products available in the legal marketplace. Yeah, and I don't want to lie and tell people that there aren't. Yeah. I don't think there's necessarily good prices for things. Yeah. But I know that Carol's going to sit here and tell me that they've got an ounce for $100 and that it's pretty good because she wouldn't sell it if it wasn't pretty good. Yeah. But $100 for an ounce is
double the price.
Ridiculously expensive for a plant that could easily be brought to market for much less than that. Yeah. And we've been through this, and I want to be fair every time. And you've heard me say it if you've watched the show that I really always want to qualify this because it's important. Because of prohibition, cannabis evolved into being grown into ways that are expensive. Mm-hmm. Grown indoors, under artificial lights, using all kinds of fertilizers that have become expensive, that are expensive.
Hydro.
There's lots of expense. All sorts of things, and to do with having to be clandestine, and the expertise that's evolved over the course of generations of people who have been growing this plant indoors under those conditions and coming up with amazing product because of it. So that stuff will always be expensive, comparatively, for sure. 100%, it's worth a lot more. It costs a lot more to grow.
You're saying that living soil stuff is what I think you're talking about. There's a lot of
lots of different expensive ways to grow cannabis.
Living soil is
and expensive. Lots of people want cannabis that's grown expensively. Mm-hmm. And there's plenty of people who are willing to pay a high dollar for that kind of cannabis. And for all kinds of reasons, they are willing to pay top dollar, large money for this plant. In reality, what it costs to bring it to market by farmers that would just do it the same way as they do other fruits and vegetables it would be down around the same price as those things. In fact, there's more biomass per cubic meter with cannabis than there is with just about any strawberries or blueberries or other crop that you would grow. It can produce quite well. It does produce a lot. It produces a lot of seeds, produces a lot of flowers, a lot of fiber, and so that's the whole range that could be there and needs to be there. You can't have. We won't allow that. It's not right. It's unethical. It's super wrong. It's killing people to only have high-priced cannabis available and no availability of the low-priced cannabis that would absolutely do wonderful things for the people that would want to use it. Like, it might not be that connoisseur cannabis that you can show all your friends and brag about and, all the
Yeah.
But it's going to make you a great brownie.
Yeah.
It's going to get you through withdrawal. It's going to get you off hard drugs. It's going to make you a great brownie, or it's going to make you great feco. That's what it really will do. That in whatever form it's brought to market, you can extract the cannabinoids off it. You can make full extract cannabis oil. You can use that for the whole variety of different things that can be used for putting into baked goods, for using just direct for people that have serious medical needs, blah, 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 blah. So it's just absolutely unethical that we would not be able to have that full spectrum of cannabis available. The high cost and the low cost. You have to have the low cost.
Yeah.
It's the opposite of what governments should be doing. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like,
we have triple grade A beef and stuff, and we have the lower cost stuff too, right? Like Salisbury steak,
The poor people have to be able to access stuff. I mean, the government makes sure that milk is at a price that people can afford to some degree. There's things that, if there isn't, there needs to be where there needs to be. And in this case, there needs to be. There needs to be low barrier access to cannabis, especially high dose cannabis in the form of concentrates and edibles. There needs to be. 100%. It's life and death. It's life and death for so many people. What the,
It's crazy.
I didn't swear any, Barbie. I didn't swear there.
Come on, any Barbie.
I should have. I could have. It's right to swear sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's highly ethical to get your point across in whatever powerful way you need to if people aren't listening to you.
And she only gets an honorable mention when you swear. Right? So we got to put it out there for her, right? So we can.
I love my Auntie Barbie. I miss her. I'm going to have to get a hold of her.
Are you lighting up your joint there? I'm going to do a job.
Reset.
My puff go.
The governments need to reset. People need to reset.
Yeah.
Have a little puff.
I love a big puff. Some OG shatter.
Nice.
A
heavyweight.
Oh, yeah.
We have a heavyweight amongst us.
Oh, God.
I'm having 500 milligram brownies made up.
Are you? Ooh,
we're very excited about that.
Oh,
that is such good medicine for some people that need that. It would knock most people on their pants.
I couldn't do that.
I wouldn't. I couldn't do that. But it helps some people in such dramatic ways.
I have 200 milligrams.
And these are the people that need it. Like, I don't. Like, like. So the government has decided that, okay, you can use this stuff. Although you can make your own, right? To be fair, you're allowed to make your own. Although many people can't and shouldn't and wouldn't, but you can. So you can make whatever dose you want for yourself. If you're a sick person, a medical user, you've got permission. Or even if you just want to use your 4 plants, you can make whatever concentrated dosage you want.
Yeah.
You make 1,000 milligram
magic butter and Velvo,
which is one of the things that's so silly about not having it available in a store. Is that everybody's allowed to have 4 plants if you're allowed to have 4 plants. If your province allows it, if your building allows it, if your landlord allows it, if your wife allows it, whatever. So, if you're allowed on all those other layers of levels, then we can have 4 plants. And you don't have to keep them out of the sight or reach of your children.
No, but neighbors.
So how dangerous are they? Your neighbors can come over and visit, and they can.
You can't.
You can't have anybody see it from the road.
Oh, from the road. Yeah, it is okay.
Can't have any passerbys notice it.
Yeah, mine are my neighbors.
But anybody that you invite into your home and their children are all welcome to be hanging out around the cannabis plants. And they can be huge cannabis plants growing in your living room under the skylights, and there your children are climbing in it. They're all, hey Dad, and that's all good because
be safe up there.
Apparently it's not dangerous after all. apparently it's not. You can have it right there. Like, everybody can have 4 plants, and it's not dangerous after all. I remember a particular Nelson. I don't know why I remember Nelson more than any other place, because I've done it in lots of places. But I was on a freedom tour.
Yeah.
Inline skating. Somebody's given me a nice big pot plant to carry through the parade, because we're having a parade.
Yeah.
You know, because of the Freedom Tour, we're having a little march there through the city of Nelson, and
nice.
We've got all these supporters, and people made up a bunch of signs, and so we're going through Nelson, and I got the plant. And so we're stopping traffic and walking past all these cars with the people sitting in their cars looking at us and reading our signs. And for me, I had my plant, and I would go up to the window and I'd say, "It's okay. It's not really dangerous." But, you know, when the police are involved, you know, prior to legalization, and hey, still with legalization, if you're growing too many plants, and like I said, they don't even have to get a warrant to go into your home to see whether you're under your 4-plant limit.
Yeah.
You know, they bring riot gear. You know, they come in there.
You got more than 4 plants. Here we go.
You see them taking the plants, and when they bust a grow up out of the bait, they're all wearing hazmat suits.
Yeah.
They're all in hazmat suits because dangerous plants, I guess.
Yeah.
Eh?
The chemicals that are on it, right?
Oh man.
I know. I know.
But go ahead and grow your 4 plants as big as you want, right around your kids. Keep your fertilizer wherever you want, because there's no regulations about anything to do with that. Just grow your 4 plants, because apparently it ain't really dangerous.
And they'll bust in your front door even though your plants are out back outside.
Yeah.
The plants are not in the house, they're outside, and they won't just go and say, okay, here, but they'll come knock your door in and put you all under arrest and check out where your plants are, right? I know.
This ain't making you upset. I don't know what is.
It makes me upset.
So I hope people get upset, because the truth is powerful. It's dangerous. It's enough for concern. The truth is, we're living in a corrupt society where your governments are not your friends.
No.
They're not your servants. You're paying them. They're taking your money. They're taking way more than they should, and they're not working for you. It's all just a big illusion that they work for you. They maintain that to continue what's going on here.
Yeah.
They've got everybody distracted and overwhelmed and confused, and alcohol's the big drug of choice, so go ahead and, you know, don't think straight.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's really serious what's going on here. Their agenda is proven to be quite ominous. And with respect to cannabis, this plant that should never have been prohibited in the first place should absolutely always have been glorified and supplemented by governments and encouraged by governments. It was a mandatory crop, although for somewhat different reasons, but still a mandatory crop for much of the forming of the United States. And it should be pretty much mandatory as the first course of medicine for whatever it is that's ailing you. That should be the first go-to for, well, maybe cannabis can help you in one of its forms.
Based, yeah.
You know, we probably don't really need rules around making it mandatory for everybody.
No, because,
you know,
yeah.
But, you know, only for certain people. Certain
The
people
ones
got...
that want it.
Well, no, the ones that need it. Like my friend, I got a friend Troy.
Yeah.
That guy should always have to be under the influence of weed, man.
But
always. That should be
it's
mandatory
choice.
for him. No, he shouldn't have a choice. He should always have to be high. It's just not safe for... He's not safe for society.
No, he has no choice. You got to put a mask on.
Seriously, for the protection of his friends and family and those that he might encounter, that man should be on cannabis all the time.
Okay, so
and he's not alone.
Judge. You're sentenced to cannabis every day.
100%.
There you go.
That's what needs to happen.
There you go.
If you prove yourself to be antisocial to a certain point, your sentence should be cannabis.
But what happens if he's one of those people that cannabis gives him energy and he wants to do even more? Because there are some of them out there.
You're forgetting. You're forgetting. Cannabis is not a single item. It is a huge spectrum.
Yes.
And it goes from stimulant to relaxant.
Yeah.
I mean, the wrong strain, and he's popping like a weasel.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
The other side of the spectrum, he ain't waking up for days. and trust me, Troy's been on both sides of those spectrums. Numerous times. We used to call him Troyal.
Troyal.
I hope he doesn't mind me talking about him.
Well, only you know who you're talking about. Right?
He knows who I'm talking about.
But he's not watching the show, and the other people know.
He's infamous in his own right.
Yeah, okay.
But, we used to call him Troyal because he was one of the original oil makers back in the day.
Okay.
And he could make some pretty fine oil.
Yeah.
And then he had ways, he was almost like an original Guppy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because, Guppy had the what did he call it there? The wibble toker. The wibble toker. You ever? No. He had this thing that would wibble your knees, man.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. He could load that thing up with the concentrated smoke that he just put in there, and then pump it right into you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there goes the
joint. Throw your joint around.
Oh yeah, the wibble toker.
Wow.
Yeah, he reduced a lot of people to quivering knees.
Out your ears?
Wibble your knees. Wibble everything.
Wow.
Yeah, guppy and the wibble toker. Well, Troy had the gravity bong.
Yeah.
You know, one of the originators of the gravity bong. I don't know if it was the originator, but he certainly found out about it.
Yeah.
And I mean, he would load up that 2-liter pop bottle.
Yeah.
And then, you know, wow.
Wow. Eh?
Yeah.
We used to do wall tokes.
Do a who?
A wall toke. So
wall tokes?
Yeah, so remember the ketchup bottles and the mustard bottles? We'd put a joint in and you'd squeeze the bottle and the smoke would come out of the end.
Yeah.
You stand up against the wall
right.
and somebody pushes on your chest while you're taking this token, and you're guaranteed you're pretty much going to pass out. But it was called a wall toke.
Yeah, and that's probably the aim of Troy and the aim of Guppy was to have people pass right out.
Yeah.
He gave it his best shot anyway.
Yeah, I remember those ketchup
and everybody
bottles.
Appreciated it.
Yeah, and
at all times.
Those mustard bottles. Always.
No one ever died.
Super tokers. That's
super tokers.
Super tokers. That's what they were called. Yes. The super tokers.
And then came Spicoli.
Spicoli.
And then came Spicoli.
Spicoli's on Friday.
Brought it to a whole other level of how to force a toke on somebody.
Oh,
you know?
Yeah.
Get an electric motor.
Oh, yeah. You mean the love machine?
The love machine.
We love the love machine.
Prior to that, they used those aerators for fish tanks.
Yes, we did. Yeah.
Yes, we did.
Yep. And all the way back in the 70s, I remember that, or 80s. It would be 80s for me.
Yeah, well, Spicoli stepped that up a couple of levels with the heavy duty weed blower, leaf blower.
I have a friend who lives in Scarborough, Ontario. His name is Ray Giannette.
Yeah.
And that is me and my adopted brother were hitchhiking, and Ray picked us up in his van and took us back to his house, and we were smoking out of one of those things. He set it up with his fish pump and everything, and then that was our first introduction to Ray and I are still friends. We were just talking last night. I was sharing that 700-pound sturgeon fish that they just caught in the freezer and then released. Did you see that?
No.
Yeah.
They're big, man.
2 Alberta guys just caught a 700-pound sturgeon in the freezer.
Wow.
And it was on the news. They did release it.
I was going to say, they probably
released it. It's a law also. You have to release those ones. But yeah, that thing was over 100 years old, a white sturgeon. It was huge. It was wow.
Yeah, there could have been a human in the belly.
Maybe. I don't know. They're dinosaurs.
You never know.
Yeah, or just extinct or whatever. Bloodline of dinosaurs, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Well.
No, Wells.
Yes, Wells. Wells, we should talk about more relevant stuff.
Yes.
We?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
What's relevant today, of course, is the quest for low barrier access, discreet dispensing of cannabis in community stores, and we're trying to get that going, as you know. And developments today. Well, previously on the quest for a community-based low barrier access cannabis store, we've had the City Council pass a motion due to our efforts at Vandu to support low barrier access, which resulted in us getting a store, but them still not supporting us until Health Canada does, and that was the real kicker right there. So we left you at the end of Season 2 there, having been rated and just getting our RV back. And here we are in Season 3, and we're trying to respond to Health Canada's request that we somehow either comply with their regulations on us that we use cannabis provided through them at costs that would normally be incurred to do that, apparently, because they don't seem to be willing to allow for the cannabis that's being currently destroyed by LPs due to overages to be donated. So it looks like they are expecting us to pay the freight, and probably includes the packaging, but really they haven't discussed it with us at all. They've pretty much just said you're going to have to use all legal cannabis to be able to continue to provide it, and that we have to only provide the high dose edibles to members of our society and people that can get a doctor to support their choice of high-dose edibles. And this is unacceptable. And so here we are. We've got less than 90 days now to respond to that. And in my view, we don't need to comply with those regulations during those 90 days. We need, or figure out how to do that. We need to get Health Canada to understand that that's going to result in the continuing deaths of many of our citizens who will be abandoned by Health Canada in wanting to access high-dose cannabis edibles. And that is unconscionable, and I will not agree to that. And Health Canada needs to get that discrete dispensing of high-dose edibles with low barrier is 100% needed to save these people's lives. And if they are the health department of our public servants, then damn it, they should figure that out pretty quickly. Maybe come down and see what's going on here. Maybe stop listening to people who say consider financial concerns and allow this to happen and support this in happening. So that's kind of where we're at. In season 2 there, we had the RV seized by the VPD, never expecting to see it back again, being told originally by the VPD that it was going to be kept for at least 90 days and then likely, kept as a seizure to do with being used in the proceeds of, or being bought with the proceeds of crime or being used in the commission of a crime. Both ludicrous assertions, because we are not criminals. We're not committing a crime. We're responding to a public health emergency and have been for 5 years in ways that we've demonstrated are the right thing to do and very successful at doing that. And so we had lost the RV, and then we got it back. So here we are back in the RV, feeling a little more comfortable, although not really, because we've had no conversations with anybody of any power. I've had numerous conversations with different VPD and even sheriffs that walk by. The courthouse is right here, so they're constantly walking by. Even today, a sheriff and I had a good conversation. He didn't know why the RV had been missing for 4 weeks. He was shocked that the VPD took it. He couldn't understand that. He told me he supports what we're doing here. He's been watching us for the last 2 years on this block and knows that we're doing good, and told me several times, just keep doing what you're doing. Just keep doing what you're doing. The deputy chief, Steve Rye of the VPD, expressed to me that I should continue the good leadership that I've been providing for our organization over this time of trying to get a license. In other words, my leadership is that we don't stop and wait for Health Canada to approve what we're doing. We continue to do what is rescuing people successfully and keeping many of our members, our 280 members now, alive by providing high-dose edibles to them. So my leadership is in defying Health Canada, in continuing to provide a service that they deem to be illegal, and we have the support of almost everybody around us.
What is it possible that we can maybe get a doctor on the video, like they do nowadays, where your clients can just talk to him on the video? He sends
Dr.
you the
MJ
form
Malloy?
that this person is allowed to have over 10 milligrams of edibles, and boom, then they...
Oh, you mean to...
Yeah.
I don't want to qualify people.
Well,
I don't want to have somebody sit in front of a doctor on a screen or otherwise and say, I am a drug addict and I want to get off of these opioids, because many people are not able or willing to do that. And those are the people that I'm talking about. Getting a doctor to approve people is something that's doable for many people. And we could do that. We could deal only with a population of people who have managed to do that, and we could help them do that. But that is abandoning a whole group of people that would not be part of that, cannot be part of that for a variety of reasons.
The video thing would be the easiest way for them to be part of that, because all they would have to do is be here.
But then they're exposing themselves. You can't ask people. You can't have that barrier. That is an absolute barrier that can't be there.
By themselves without
that person's child deserves to live just like any other person's child. That person's child deserves to be able to walk into a store and buy high-dose cannabis edibles if that's what they want to do, without identifying themselves or what problem they might have or what motives they might have. That just needs to be a thing. Nobody's asking anybody why you're buying a 40-pounder of whiskey when you walk into a liquor store.
Or why you're buying that 12 back severe.
And they're not limited to only buying one of those bottles. In fact, that would be way more than the cannabis you're allowed to buy. But, you need low barrier access to catch all of the people, and all of the people deserve to have discreet, low barrier access, where they don't have to identify themselves or what their motives are, and they get what they think they need for themselves. They can access information, and many of them won't go to a doctor. And Health Canada can't turn their back on these people.
No, they can't.
That's murder.
They're doing that.
There's no reason to do that. There's no reason. All you need to do is explain to people the potential of high-dose edibles. You can eat too much. It's not fun. You probably don't want to do it. It won't kill you, but avoid it if all possible, because lots of people never go back again. So put the warning somewhere where the retail sale is happening.
Yeah.
Let full-grown, consenting adult human beings from 16 years of age on decide for themselves how much they want, what they need, how they want to use it. Make sure they understand that they can eat too much, and they should try to avoid that. And then if they don't, that's their business.
Exactly.
You shouldn't eat too much of anything. But if you do, that's your business. There's no cop that's going to come along and start arresting you as you try to gobble down your 12th raw potato. That's dangerous.
Sorry, sir, that's too many.
There's a very large potential for killing a person to eat 12 raw potatoes. But, there's no cop that's going to come and arrest you for that. They don't even put that warning on the potatoes.
No.
Most people don't even know that because they wouldn't eat that many raw potatoes.
No.
But gasoline is dangerous.
Yeah.
And they'll sell that to a 12-year-old that comes with a proper container. What are you going to use that for? They don't ask them that even.
No.
They don't have to ask them. Probably they would. I would. A kid comes to me and wants to buy some gasoline. I'm going to are you cutting somebody's lawn?
Yeah.
Or what are you doing here?
Maybe my go-kart.
But anyways. Stupid regulations surrounding one of the most beneficial, but much more importantly, one of the least dangerous substances in the environment. Francis Young, the judge, who was a DEA judge, he'd been convicting people for drug crimes for years. When he came to really investigate it and report on it, he had to say cannabis is one of the least toxic or most benign substances found in nature. I mean, you can't die from this. Your whole immune system is wrapped around cannabinoids that the body creates itself because we've had this symbiotic relationship of eating this plant since our bodies started to be formed. All the vertebrates on the planet.
Dinosaur day.
Long before the dinosaurs. Exactly. This plant goes back that far. It's an ancient plant. Look into all this stuff. If you're not if you're hearing stuff that you didn't think was true and you don't believe me, look into all this stuff. You'll find out it's a very ancient plant, and it had to be a plant that has evolved from the basis of what was the core food or the staple food of life on this planet in the early stages of life developing, for it to be that every vertebrate has an endocannabinoid system that creates the same chemistry as the cannabis plant produces. It's a symbiotic relationship that happened because we've been in that relationship of consuming this plant for absolutely millions and millions of years. So interesting.
Our bodies need it.
They do. So here we are. You want to go?
Yeah, I'll go. You're going to talk about the CSP.
Yeah, I'm just going to briefly wrap up the little previously on the show.
I'll come back next Tuesday.
Okay.
How's that?
You're pretty reliable.
Yeah, I'm pretty reliable.
Right.
You seem to be here always too on Tuesdays.
Usually here,
It'll be our last show before.
And in fact, if it wasn't for you last week, we wouldn't have had a show. And if anybody missed the show last week, I don't know if it got put out on the different broadcast mediums that we normally do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're all good.
And Neil took the week off, and we really appreciate having him back. Makes it a lot easier. But I appreciate you too being able to make it happen when he's not here.
I appreciate you having me here every week. It gets me out of my home, right?
There you go. Gotta get you out of the house. You're supposed to be quarantined, damn it.
Yeah. All right, we'll see you next week.
We'll see you next week. Thank you so much, Glenn.
No problem.
All right, so like I was saying, previously on the quest for a low barrier access cannabis store led us to being in an RV. Without the support of the city to be able to stay in the storefront that we opened in absolute good faith. We did not try to sneak into a storefront and operate without a license, nothing like that. We had met with the city, with the Councillor Bly, We had an understanding that we would find a storefront and move forward from there with the city. We found that storefront, we moved into it. We were to open it, to start providing our service from within the storefront, that the city staff would come and assess us, and that, if we were meeting the needs of the neighborhood in ways that they thought were responsible, then they would allow us to continue to do that. But instead, the city licensing department shows up, not city staff. Licensing says they don't care what city staff says. They don't care about a motion passed by the city council that we need to have a license from Health Canada, and that's that for that. Or at least we need a license from another layer of government, because it's all about layers of government here in Canada. And the next layer of government was the province. Well, it turns out that they're not involved with what we were doing, because what we were doing was medical cannabis. And the layer of government that we needed to deal with was at the top, where all the big decisions are made, and the other layers of government with respect to cannabis have very little ability to move on how cannabis is distributed amongst the people. So the federal government being the place to apply, we certainly did that. We applied under an emergency basis to Health Canada and to Patty Haydu, the federal health minister. Our lawyer, John Conroy, put together a great application. Should have been easy to approve it in a very short period of time. We made it very clear, very simply, although it was a long application. It involved a lot of evidence, a lot of proof about what we were doing there. But it would have been really easy for any high school student to quickly look at what we were proposing, what we had been doing, the success that we had been having, the problem that we were solving, and to quickly give us some sort of an approval to allow us to continue to do that. That's what we put together, that emergency application for just a temporary exemption from the Cannabis Act to allow us to continue until those licenses could be determined, was also ignored by Patty Haydu's office and by Health Canada. Time went by. The landlord felt the pressure from the city's threat. We lost in court to a judge who decided that we had blood on our hands in asking for some sort of an exemption from action against us, because we were not obeying the law in saving people with cannabis high-dose edibles. And so he kicked us out, gave us 7 days to get out of the store and stop selling from here. The landlord allowed us to continue renting as long as we weren't selling, and in the hopes that we would be able to move back in and sell. And we secured an RV overnight because we couldn't even suspend our program for a day. Having been at it for now 5.5 months, having over 250 people at that time that were relying on us on a daily basis, we felt we couldn't be even away for a day. Got the RV, been operating out of the RV ever since, and we're still there. And the other stuff I've already talked about, that although we've been in the RV for 1.5 years, we got raided 7 weeks ago today, charged with trafficking. Those charges are still pending apparently. We will be in court on July 20th, 222 Main Street here, to have a first appearance, unless they drop the charges in the time in between, which I believe they will and certainly should. But that's going on. They gave us our RV back. We once the RV was gone, we set up a rally tent, just like we were at 420 or Cannabis Day, providing cannabis, and that's what we did, 8 hours a day, 7 days a week. And with lots of signage for all the VPD and other people to drive by and understand what was going on there. Never had the VPD tell us to stop. Never had them come and say, "Why would you still be doing this once we've charged you? We're gonna jail you if you don't stop this." Nothing like that at all. I sought out every VPD officer that I could find in the time since that raid, and have had nothing but positive conversations with all of them, many of them saying that we should continue on and that they support what we're doing here. So here we are, and it's quite the little chess game that's going on. We haven't had anybody official tell us that we're safe. We have yet to have Health Canada tell us that we can move back into the store. In fact, it looks like they just bought themselves some more time. It looks like this delaying process that's been going on with Health Canada since the beginning is continuing, with now an extension of that deadline going till September 6th, telling me basically that they're not about to say yes before September 6th, or maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe we can convince them before that they should just approve licenses ASAP, should have been done weeks or months or years ago, and that can still happen. But it looks like we're going to respond to their intent to deny with a very strong response, I'm sure. We can demonstrate to them. We have hundreds of people who have signed, like over 1,200 people, 1,300 people have signed a petition on our behalf. We've got dozens and dozens of letters that have been written as a result of the raid on our behalf that we'll be submitting, and that's part of our response. Plus all the other people that are writing Health Canada and contacting them from many other different levels of government. The media has also been doing the same thing, at least with the VBD, and I'm sure that'll continue with Health Canada as this moves forward. So, but, you know, without them agreeing to licensing before our response, I guess they will then take our response and consider that and then give us another response, and maybe that will be the final response. But it's looking like it'll be somewhere around next January, or, you know, next year, which I guess would be consistent with them having told us in December 2 years ago that they would have it for us in early January. And having not specified which January, I guess that would still be okay if they had it done by this coming January next year. I don't know. I get cynical and I get, you know, sarcastic because this is all such a cruel joke. It's been a terrible journey of trying to get a corrupt government to do the right thing. I'm further disillusioned from where I was before the start of this about how corrupt our governments are and how sad a state we're living in. But for me, at the forefront, at the front line of this battle, witnessing the inherent corruption that's permeating all the way through our society, where we've got a province that's bowing down to a federal government, and we've got a municipal government that's bowing down to a federal government that they all know is corrupt. They agree with us is corrupt, but they're afraid to do anything to ruffle their feathers or you know, or get in their way. The Cannabis Act is an immoral document that is murdering people by preventing proper access to people that would otherwise use it to escape addiction and better their lives, and in many cases save their lives. We've lost many people because the government has never allowed proper access to cannabis, and those people could still be living proper lives without the interference by these public servants. So you know, we're frustrated. This is a tough battle. We're not confident at all that we're going to win this thing without having to go to the courts, and even in the courts, who knows? I'm an optimist. I believe we're going to win. I have hope. I have serious hope that we can win this. I think it should be impossible that we can't, because we're standing up for the sick people, the poor people, the abused people, the traumatized people of our world here, the ones that need support where others don't. These are the ones that government should be protecting above all others, instead of persecuting and oppressing the way that they are, using them as scapegoats to justify an immoral drug prohibition that's making money for insiders and corporate interests, all on the backs of people who are suffering and dying. It's terrible. It's unconscionable. It needs to stop. And we're trying to do that. We think that maybe if we can get the government to allow for low barrier access to cannabis the way that it should be, properly available to people, that can cause other ripples through our society that will help us get closer to what we really deserve in the way of freedom and autonomy as human beings, and a governance of people who are servants of ours, paid to be so, and protecting us from the very people that they are actually serving today. I want to go outside because we always do. I want a little update on, you know, I want you to have a physical look at where the RV is, and you know, and always give a sense of what's actually happening here. It is, after all, I guess, reality TV at its finest. So let's go do that. Well, it's a grey day in Vancouver. Grey is okay. It's better than rain and cold. We've had little bits of rain, but not too bad. The temperature is fairly balmy, as you can see. I'm not wearing a jacket, so it's not too bad. Not too bad to be out in an RV. The street's clean. Not too bad at all here. one block over, it's like, I don't know what it's like walking. It's like walking through the garbage dump, basically, as you walk down the sidewalk. There's all this trash thrown all over the place. Some nice tents, mostly crappy tents, set up all over the place. People sitting in different stages of drug use and abuse. And yeah, lots and lots of people offering you up, down, sideways, and every other which way of getting away from your trauma here. And even some cannabis being offered on the street now. In fact, when the government closed down the Blue Door, which was one of the main outlets for cannabis on the downtown east side for the last several years, the CSU has shut them down and replacing them with a government store, which will be out of reach for the people that the Blue Door was reaching. But when that happened, all sorts of cannabis dealers popped up all up and down Hastings Street, sitting on the sidewalks. So now you can get meth and down, heroin, fentanyl, crack, all these other things, and cannabis up and down Hastings Street. So closing down the Blue Door did not deter the marketplace for cannabis here. It just moved it outdoors into very risky situations for people, as opposed to having an actual store to walk into. And shame on them for doing that. But here we are, back with our RV. We've now become, I'm told, an icon of the downtown east side, that this is a fixture here, and maybe it should always be here. Maybe one day when we're no longer here because we're in a storefront, the city will build a monument that looks like our Scooby-Dooby van here, and it'll be here as a testament to a local group of cannabis activists that refuse to go away in the face of great pressure by government to prevent them from doing what is the absolute most important and necessary thing to do down here, and that is to have cannabis as an option for people, so that they're not stuck with walking up and down their neighborhood being offered all kinds of other drugs and not have the availability to walk into a little store and get some cannabis instead. Because if that was here, then there'd be a lot less of all of this other drug dealing going on. There'd be a lot less of all this other drug misuse going on. There would be a whole new vibe in this neighborhood of cannabis infused love and happiness and pursuit of a decent life, which is what we all deserve to have, which is what these people have been denied and are being denied, because in Vancouver and in other parts of Canada, it's a crime to be poor, and you can tell by the laws that they pass and by how they make certain things available to the rich people that aren't available to the poor people. You are not an advantaged person in this society if you're struggling, and if you're poor, you are, by government decree, a lesser person. And that's what our society is really needing to be ashamed of and really to get over and stop. And the first step is to allow access to cannabis as an option for people. Let's see what happens at the back door if you knock on it. I didn't get my signs out today. I feel bad about that. Either. I didn't knock either. Okay, we'll try it again.
There we go. Hello, how's it going?
Hey, it's going all right.
It's going all right.
Anything after the 420 session, I'm not responsible for.
Okay.
How you doing, Andrew?
Going all right. Had quite a few people. Over 20 people come.
Yeah?
Today. Quite a few, yeah.
Feels good to be back in the RV, I guess, eh?
Sure it does.
What's in our tray?
What's in our tray? Our tray is bare today.
There's barely anything there.
Yeah. We're bare today. We have
so if I'm a person and I don't have any cannabis, and I would really like some for a variety of really important reasons, and I come here and I knock on the door and I'm part of the program, and you show me that tray, that's not a bare tray. I know we're used to having so much more, but to have, such wonderful gummies, Green Wilderness and Gorilla Ganja, Joe Pepper's cookies, those are fabulous.
She's a mainstay.
All a person would need is those caps, really. There was a whole program down here all around caps.
People that just take caps.
Yeah, that's all you need is a cap at the right time for you as an individual, finding out what your dose is. If all we had was cannabis caps for people, they would be thrilled with that, and it would work for almost everybody.
They do work.
We also give a joint with every bag here, right? So you don't have any cannabis and you're hurting, and you can just knock on a back door and you're going to get a joint and some edibles. I think you're doing pretty good. We're very proud of what we're doing here.
Yeah,
we are so happy with the people that donate and have donated throughout the years here that, you know, I can't express it properly. I really should do more, but those people don't care. They know in their hearts who they are and what they've done, and they don't care. But I do. I mean, we wouldn't be able to do anything without donations. Andrew would be standing there looking at you silly if you knocked on the door and said, "Can I have some free weed?" Like, you know, who gets free weed?
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
you know, thanks to donators that care and support us, we've been doing this for 5 years, and we have trays that look as good as that and way better even throughout these 5 years because of a whole bunch of people that care and allow us to make this work. So, yeah, we're persistent and we're determined and we're not going away, but we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be able to do anything that we could walk away from if it wasn't for the people that donate and make it work.
Yeah.
So, you know, can't thank you enough. Like, as I say, I never feel like I do enough to speak to that. And we got Robert's caramels too, don't we now?
Not yet. I haven't got you for CSP
Okay,
yet.
well, we'll have some for CSP right away because he's got his oven back, so he's going to be helping out some more.
This is what I'm working with.
Yeah. Well.
And Joe Pepper always comes in the right time.
Yeah.
Always. She's a mainstay.
And we've got John Murray's muffins, and
John
we've got
Murray does
Michael the Cookie Monster's cookies as well.
John Murray's cookies at 30 milligrams.
Yeah, and I see you've got cream there as well.
Yeah, we got some cream at 20 milligrams.
Joints, cream, edibles in many different forms. You know, that's pretty good.
You're lucky you're getting got a good variety. You might just get one and one, a joint and a cookie or something.
Exactly.
You're lucky.
So, yeah, we're pretty happy and pretty proud of what we do here, but it wouldn't happen without the donators.
No.
You know, we owe it all to the people from the beginning, from, you know, Weeds, Glass and Gifts and Medicinal Cannabis Dispensary and so many other places that helped us in the beginning. There's so many to list there. You know, it's been fantastic. Thank you all.
The people that get the edibles, we have great stories from people that have turned their life around, right?
We get to be here and listen to people tell us how great it is.
Tell us how great this stuff works. It's great. And we get to give them 420 every 4 days, right?
All day long, people are thanking us and telling us about how they're sleeping better, how they're off the other drugs and all the rest of that.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we're the beneficiaries of that. For you people that have donated to us, I mean, I know you know that that's kind of what's going on here, but you should be the ones that are getting all of that thanks, really, because we're just here handing it out.
I'm just handing it out.
We don't supply it. So,
I've just been where they've been. I'm just handing it back to them.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just giving them the reins to take it.
We're just a vehicle for people to give.
420, and you go away and you take the 420 and try and get off of whatever drugs you're on, right?
Yeah. And now we've got so many people that tell us that, you know, we've saved their life. We hear that all the time. That's the one comment we hear more than anything else. Hey man, you people are saving my life here. You people have saved my life. We hear that all day long. Where's the government in this? You know, why has it got to be us doing it, you know, against the tide of government? Why aren't we part of the flow of government that would be, you know, buoying us up and supporting us in our journey to do this?
We have to be the government.
You know, it's just crazy.
No, we're the government taking care of this ourselves because they've been coming in, right?
We are the people.
We have to take charge. Right?
We the people are the government.
You don't want to hear the ambulance firing all day long. You don't.
That other corporate organization that calls themselves the Canadian government, they're not governing down here.
Shit, so nobody has to get arrested for this shit.
Well, thanks, Andrew.
No problem. You're welcome.
We'll see you on the other side.
Okay, thank you very much.
So, yeah, we've been doing this for 5 years. This spawned Chris Backer in Halifax putting the East Coast Cannabis Substitution Program together, and they've been doing a fabulous job for over 2 years there of providing similar bags full of stuff for the people that come there to get it. And in London, Ontario, it's now William Hicks who's taken over from Mary McCarty, who got it going there. She was our head baker here, and so they're doing a fine job there of helping people out. And then Mary's moved to Manitoba, where she started the Cannabis Substitution Program there. Had to have a bit of a suspension due to health issues, but I think she's back up and running and got more volunteers and more support now, and so that's awesome as well. They're doing it in Victoria for over 4 years now there, since they took what we were doing here and adapted it over there. So this is going on all over the place. There's places in California that are doing it. There's other small groups that are independently just helping to provide people with cannabis high-dose edibles in their communities. Support those people in any way that you can, anytime you can. This is the leading edge of getting what we deserve in the way of actual proper legalization of cannabis, is availability as an option for people to the other hard drugs that are here. So please help out if you can. Let's go check out, oh, well, we got the window. Hello. Oh, look at this. All right, so just a little minor distraction there. Hi, Jen.
Hi.
Are you going to be here on July 1st?
Probably.
Probably.
It's not Monday.
It's not a Monday, it's a Friday.
So yeah, somebody's got to work.
Somebody's got to work the RV. And these three are so dedicated that as much as I'm sure they would love to experience the 420 and the Cannabis Day rallies that we have, they always say, no, it's more important that we're here. Who's going to be here if we're not?
We get to go to Canada. We get to go to 420 in 2025.
In 2025, they will be able to go to a 420 because it's on a
Monday.
day off.
It'll be a Monday.
I hope by 2020. Yeah, I hope by 2025 there are many changes in what's happening with all of us, and that we're probably all each running our own little low barrier access community cannabis store and helping people out in ways that make sense, as opposed to doing it from an RV, you know, right through the heat of the summer and the freezing winters, and oh my God.
Well, tent will be fine in the summer, but yeah, the van is more necessary. in
We
winter.
have endured some time in this RV.
You haven't endured too much. we endured the horrible.
Fine, point it out if you want. That I'm not in there 8 hours a day.
We are the ones here
You know,
all the time.
I have to endure your complaining about the horrible heat and cold, and I'm the one who has to run and get the heater or try to fan you with a paper.
Are you gonna fan me this summer?
I've been a
Call me
fan of yours for a
Cleopatra.
while. Anyway, we're holding up the show, so we're gonna go in here.
All right. Do you want 4 grams at a $5 or an $8.50? George.
Ah, well, nice to be home, eh?
Certainly.
Feels
Home-stoned home.
this ganja mobile, you know, hippie RV just feels like a home. Like it's just home. It's like an old friend.
There you go.
It's got to be, you know, because nobody ever thought it was going to be. Let's see, it's been since 1st November. So we'll be
October.
yeah, at the end of the 1st of November, like November 1st was the first time we were in this RV. We had to exit the store.
It wasn't October 1st? Or...
No, we exited the store at the end of October. We had until November 1st to get out.
Oh yeah, we had Halloween in there. We had a pumpkin.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
I
when it
remember
was.
the pumpkin.
So here we are in June, July, August, September, October, 5, so at a 24, yeah, 19 months.
That's tasty.
19 months later, now, like I say, this has become some sort of a fixture on the downtown east side that, and for us too, it's become a part of what we do every day. When you're in here as often as these guys are, and then I'm in here a lot too. I'm in here every day for periods of time, and well, I have similar feelings. That's all. I can relate to how it feels when you're in a place, you know, every day and what have you. You know, probably more waking hours here than in your own homes. You know.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Well, especially for poor little George that commutes all the way from Surrey.
Yeah, he's got a couple hours of transit.
Well, lucky
Every
him,
day,
you know, the
both
train
ways.
seems to break down like every time he needs to go home, so it takes him an
Right.
extra hour or so.
But faithfully every day we open this thing up at 11 a.m. and there's a lineup of people now every time.
The community is very lucky that we all survive on very little amounts of sleep.
Yeah, that's right. You know, I don't usually talk about the sale of cannabis because it's a touchy issue, and it's why we got raided. If we were continuing just to give it away, we could probably do that without getting raided or without having to worry too much about needing that license from Health Canada. But it is so important that it be for sale to people, because not everybody will be part of a program that gets it given to them, and those people need to be reached, and there are so many of them, and we've learned that here. There's people coming from all different parts of the Lower Mainland and British Columbia to access what we have here, because it's not available to them other places, and they're not coming because they're part of a program, and they wouldn't come to be part of a program. They're just ordinary people that need a discreet place to go and get cannabis, and they need it at prices that they can afford. In this neighborhood especially, there's many people that aren't able to be part of our program that really rely on cannabis, and they need it to be affordable. So what we've been very proud of
I just wanted to say, like, a lot of our members take pride in doing something to earn a few dollars, like collecting empties or collecting needles or whatever, and take pride in being able to come here and spend that.
Yeah,
Like,
they're
sure,
now
they
going.
appreciate something free when they don't have anything, but when they do have a few dollars that they earned, they want to be able to come and spend it.
So
It's something that's, you know,
the
healthy
point
for
I'm
them.
the point I'm making in this is that what we've been able to offer consistently for since last November, but before that at the shop for most of the time there, we would have $1 a gram cannabis, and we've managed to have it always since November, and hopefully in the future to come, we will always have $1 a gram cannabis for people, or cheaper. And what we offer in that respect is 5-gram bags for $5, and that's a limit of 1 per person per day to try to keep us in that ability to do that. And it's worked out really, really well. It has become such a relied upon thing for so many people. That's pretty much the lineup that we have in the morning, is people who want to access that $5 bag to get them through their day. And they come and they say, wow, you know, we end up with a joint left over in the morning, and we've got money in our pocket still, because to get 5 grams of weed prior to that would have cost them $50, and they couldn't do it. They'd spend the $10 they got to get 1 gram of weed and then smoke it all, and it wouldn't quite be enough, and they'd have nothing left in the morning. They would have no money, and they would have no weed. But because they can get that $5 bag here, they've got a little extra money, and they tell us that. Sometimes they're saying, now I can eat as well as smoke some weed, because there's where their priorities are. But we're very proud to have that, and this is what the government needs to license and support, fund, for God's sakes. Like, help us help people in that fashion. It is really, really important and valuable for people, but the only reason they won't is because they know that that'll interfere with their ability to hold their monopoly on overpriced cannabis that's artificially inflated, just to try to take advantage of a marketplace that wants cannabis and is willing to pay high dollars for it, for those that can afford it. Enough that that's all they care about, is the people that can afford it. The people that can't afford it, the people that really need it, they're the ones who are left out of this. That's why it's so weak. So here we are again, come to the end of another show. I want to thank Neil, my producer. I want to thank Glenn for coming on the show. I want to thank all you people for watching. Everybody who's donated and helped us in any way, thank you so much. I want to appeal again for people to do stuff. It's important. And it does make a difference. It makes a difference to you and how you feel about whether you're making a difference or not, but it makes a difference to the people that actually get those emails and letters and phone calls and conversations that people have to try to bring some sense to our world, to help our public servants understand who they should be working for, and maybe force them into positions where they are limited in their power to do what they do on behalf of the corporate agenda, and transparent as they do things, so that they don't get to hide behind closed doors with lobbyists and make deals that harm us and help these insider, friends. And that if they do get caught, not serving the interests of us as citizens, but the interests of corporations that want to exploit us, that be a very, very serious offense. So hopefully we can get that if we all work towards it. Do your part. Love your neighbors, love your friends, your family, love yourself, and always have as much fun as you can. Why not? See you next week.
Okay.